Hey all, in this video, we're going to dive into the Lido V3 StVaults roles and permissions. So in the last video, we took a look at Lido V3 and we explored some of the core motivations behind this large upgrade to the Lido protocol. We took a look at what the StVault system is and really what it exposes to us. It's kind of this abstraction layer that allows us to separate the liquidity of the StETH and the actual node operators are running the actual yield against the yield to StETH, so actually running those validators. Traditionally, that was all bundled up in the Lido protocol, and you just deposited ETH into it, you got StETH back, and you earn that yield. But if you want to really be in control of who's running that ETH, this is where Lido V3 comes in. And now, as a result of that, we have a ton of different options and configurations that we can do within the protocol to be able to really craft products, staking products on top of this, which to us at Long Island Blockchain is super exciting. And we are actively deploying and using StVaults for our work and our clients. So let's take a look here. So if we dive into this, I'm going to be going through some of the documentation on the Lido site, and specifically, I'm here on the StVaults documentation center, and I'm going to dive into this roles and permissions section. Now, StVaults has a really rich permissioning system that is going to allow us to configure our StVaults in various different ways depending on the types of configurations that we are focused on for the types of products that we're building. Now, at the top level, we have the node operator address. This is the only address within the StVault that cannot be changed. So it's super important that this address is secure using a multisig, and it's something that obviously you're going to have access through the life cycle of your entire StVault system. This address is registered with Lido's operator grid. Now, this is really the integration point into the overall Lido protocol, and this is where a lot of the constraints come in terms of reserve ratios and minting limits that are assigned to the StVault once it's connected to the overall Lido ecosystem. And this is really kind of the piece that controls a lot of the minting limits, because we need to really understand that still the StETH is still coming from the core Lido protocol. So this is all controlled using this idea of the operator grid, and the node operator address is really that integration point for us. So you want to make sure that that's a multi-sig and that it's super secure. But if we take a step back and we really boil it down to two core roles right at the top. So top level, we have these two core roles, which is really the vault owner, which is essentially it doesn't have to be, but the person that creates the StVault. You can also delegate that, make the vault owner something else. But it is an address. It could be multiple addresses, and that vault owner has a ton of delegatable permissions. So the vault owner can then divvy out permissions to other addresses to do certain focused tasks, which we'll take a look at in a minute. So the vault owner, you can think of like the super user. This is root in the system, and they're able to basically do anything within the vault. They can fund it, they can withdraw it. They have a lot of power within the scope of the given vault. The second is the node operator manager. So the node operator manager, this is more focused on the actual node operator within the vault. So the responsibilities here really are depositing ETH from the contract into actual validators on the core Ethereum protocol. So doing things like making deposits into the deposit contract, proving or registering different validators with the StVault, although that is the actual proof process is a permissionless process, but typically it would probably be the node operator that really cares about doing that. These types of operations, the node operator manager is really focused on, well, node operation, which makes sense. This role also has some delegatable permissions that we're able to kind of put out and make different addresses. So within our own operations, like here at Long Island Blockchain, we have set up our operations in various different ways to be able to manage really risk and how are we setting up some of these addresses and convenience for us to be able to actually operate and expose features to our clients that they're looking for, being able to get quick access to that StETH liquidity and be able to peer into their vaults and be able to see the status of those vaults. But it all starts with these two roles, right? The vault owner and the node operator manager. Now, you can see here, this page is actually pretty clearly outlined, right? So the default admin role has these non-delegatable permissions that we have here. Things like proposing and confirming a change in the node operator fee, which is quite interesting because this is kind of a two-step process where one of these roles, the admin role, would propose, hey, I want to change the node operator fee. Say it's set at 20% or something like that, and they want to change it to 10%. They can propose that. And then there's an expiration period, which we'll look at in a later video when we start to create these StVaults. There is this confirmation expiration period that we need to wait in order for us to get the other side of this equation, another person, the node operator, to confirm or reject that proposal. These are some of the non-delegatable permissions. Now, here's some of the delegatable roles that the admin user has. And it becomes clear that we can really start to get very granular with this. So before I dive into these, let me take a step back. These two addresses, they really should be multi-signature addresses, right? So at LIBC, we use the safe wallets, which is really the de facto in the industry for us to be able to create a more secure environment where we have multiple signers against any one of these addresses, be it the vault owner or the node operator manager. And we work with our clients to be able to properly configure these. And we have services wrapped around these types of secure wallet, but also keeping it non-custodial with these addresses. So it's important that these addresses are super secure. You don't want to be using soft wallets like in, just a soft wallet in MetaMask or something like that for these types of addresses. These should be as secure as possible, multi-signature, and on hardware wallets for the individual signatures of those multi-signature wallets. So these are going to be multi-sigs, but as you go down here and you start to delegate roles, things like, hey, maybe the mint role doesn't need to be a multi-sig. We can delegate out the mint role to maybe a client's wallet that is set up where they can mint their StETH and get access to their StETH and the liquidity within the vault itself. The fund role, another example, right? We want to allow multiple addresses to be able to fund this vault. Totally doable, and we can go ahead and delegate it there. I think this gets really, really interesting because as you mix these different roles and you delegate them to different addresses, think about these addresses don't just need to be EOAs. They could be other smart contracts or full protocols themselves that fund these vaults. So you can use these roles as really an integration point into the protocol for your on-chain products that extend maybe what you're doing and enhance your product a bit with staking yields combined with the liquidity of StETH. Super excited about what we're going to see emerge here. And at LIBC, we're really excited to work with folks on configuring and setting these up in various different ways for their given business and projects. So I'm not going to go through these one by one. I mean, this page really kind of outlines it quite well. The node operator manager, as you can see here, same thing with the admin role. We do have some non-delegatable permissions. They're pretty similar to the admin role with some differences here pertaining to the node operator fees and things like that. And then we also have some of these delegatable roles, which they're less than the admin role because really these are focused on getting the validators up and running and cooking. A lot of it has to do with the deposits, right? There's different deposit flows, which we're going to also go into in a future video where we look at how do we work with the pre-deposit guarantee contract and how do we actually deposit ETH into validators, which there are multiple avenues we can go depending on the trust level you have with your node operator. We'll get into that, and that kind of leads us into some of the pre-deposit guarantee contract roles. As I mentioned earlier, there is a permissionless proof that you can post where when you have a validator running against your StVault, you do need to prove that validator is on the chain and that the consensus layer sees it. A cool thing about that is that we a couple of upgrades ago we include that beacon root hash inside on the execution layer. So we're able to take that hash and compute a Merkle proof that proves that the validator is in fact on the beacon chain. It's being seen. and it's properly set up with the withdrawal address that points to the StVault address. So super cool. This is really built on the back of some of the awesome upgrades that we've seen in Ethereum over the last couple of years, which is enabling us to be able to create these technologies that is just continuously progressing us into the future with decentralized finance and the capabilities of it. Super, super exciting. We're going to continue to build here. And yeah, I think that is pretty much it in terms of the permissions. Again, just to recap, we have really two top level permissions, two top level kind of personas here. We have the owner and we have the actual node operator manager. Those are the two guys that are at the top. They could be multiple addresses. It's recommended that they are multisigs, secure wallet infrastructure for those two components. And then those two main addresses really have all of these delegatable permissions that allow us to go out into different, more granular permissions for us to configure our vaults in more creative ways. So that's pretty much the role system. It's pretty straightforward. Lido has some really good graphics here outlining some of the flows. This is more of a top level flow. Like if you really zoom out and you have a lot of the different components that exist within the protocol, they're outlining, some user personas here, things like the node operator and technical savvy user, automation, or any user. But really, this kind of boils down to two primary interfaces here to interact with the StVault system, which is the command line interface, which we'll go into, and then the web UI, which I think we're going to see a lot of interesting web UIs emerge. Long Island Blockchain, we built our own web UI to manage StVaults. So the client interface is somewhat unique, and it gives you a lot of the access that you need in order to operate your vault and peer into the performance of that vault. So I think we're going to see a lot of interesting products emerge from here, and I hope that Long Island Blockchain is one of those interesting products. That feeds into the overall kind of contract infrastructure here in terms of this dashboard contract and this vault contract, which we're going to go into in future videos as we go through creating vaults on Hoodie. So stick around. In the next video, I think we're going to look a little bit more at how to actually create a vault, and we're going to walk through some of that process and see how that vault integrates into the overall ecosystem, the overall Lido ecosystem. So any questions, comments, leave them below. We love to hear what you're doing with Lido V3, and stick around. The future is bright. We are super excited. Thanks for listening.